Hi friends, I'm Michael Levine, and welcome to another edition of Without Notes, which I think is a fantastic title in that it aptly describes the adventure we're going on. Without Notes indicates a show that is done without any conditions, any notes. It's transparent, it's authentic, at least I hope it will be, and vulnerable. Now, if you're living in America, and you're living particularly in an urban area, it is impossible, literally impossible, no matter the city, to not see a phenomena that is literally unbelievable in terms of homelessness in the streets. Dr. Grossman is the founder of a charity. He decided many years ago, far before this was the crisis it is today, to do something. Maybe at the time he thought it was a little something, but he did something about homelessness. That's going to be, in part, our topic today. Welcome, Dr. J. Grossman.
Thank you, Michael. Good to be here.
Founder of Homeless Not Toothless. All right, so let's start with, where were you born?
I was born in New York.
Born in New York City?
Long Island.
Long Island, okay. All right, fantastic. Born in Long Island in New York City. And were you raised in a home that I would have, had I viewed it, would have appeared to be a middle-class home, a lower middle-class home, an upper middle-class home? What would that have appeared to my eyes to have been had I known you then?
You know, looking back, I would say it was middle class.
Okay, you were right.
So my parents decided that my mother was going to be a stay-at-home mother. And
very common at the time.
It was very, very common. And looking back, I actually appreciated that. Mm-hmm. Whereas nowadays, you know, both parents are working. And,
often.
And you know, sometimes there's somebody else at the house that's not family, that's raising the kids. I've got concerns about that. I think that's another show.
Right. What topics we'll talk about?
Yeah. My father was a purchasing agent for an electronics company, and I didn't know this until just before he passed away, that he actually chose that job because there was no travel, it wasn't cutthroat, it was very low stress, and it was minutes from the house. And he told me just before he passed that he chose that because he actually wanted to be home to get me ready for school in the morning and to be home in time to give me a bath before dinner. Mm-hmm. So those were formative years for me, and something that I think actually helped shape me as a father.
Okay. Yes, modeling.
Yeah.
So now, how many children in the family?
My sister and myself. There's two of us.
Two. And you are the older?
I am.
You're the older. Okay. And so, tell us a little bit about your mom.
My mother is a very strong-willed. She's got great opinions. She's happy to voice them. She'll sit at the table and engage in, you know, politics and ethics. She's got a strong sense of right and wrong. Mm-hmm. So much so that when I was a teenager, or my sister was a teenager, she went back and got her master's degree in family therapy. And although she never practiced that, it was something that she just enjoyed learning about.
Now again, correct me here, that phenomena that you just spoke of would be more common today, but less common then. Going
Yes.
back to, you know.
A bit of a Renaissance woman, I guess you could say.
Yes.
Yeah. And then she got a job later on. I mean, it was almost out of the house, working, you know, at the public library, an administrative position.
And the marriage, to your recollection, was generally a good one?
Yeah, you know, I think that the issues that
marriage is complicated.
Marriages could be complicated. I think that the main takeaway that I had was that there were financial concerns, and you know, from a single income family, I'm not surprised. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably one of the most common things that people talk about in marriage. It's either a communication issue or a financial issue that tend to cause stresses in families.
Were you a modestly good student?
Was pretty good.
Pretty good student. And did it come easily to you, or did you have to work hard at it, or a little of both?
Yeah, I would say that in high school, I coasted through high school until a teacher called me out, and he read me like a book. And it's a fun story. You want to hear this?
Yes, I do.
So it's social studies, it's 10th grade. We get the first test back, and I got an 88 on it. And I'm pretty excited. I didn't put a moment of studying into it. And he goes, class dismissed early, everybody except for Jay. Pulls me into his office that's smaller than this table and lights his...
This table is not large.
Michael, he likes his pipe.
Oh.
Does that tell you how old I am?
Yes.
He lights a pipe
yes.
in high school.
Yes.
And as he's puffing on the pipe, he
and
says...
by the way, again, absolutely normal at the time.
Normal smoking at school.
Yep.
And he goes, I was thinking about failing you on this test. I said, failing me? I didn't cheat. He goes, I didn't say you did, but you didn't study either. And I could feel myself, I'm standing at his desk as he's puffing away. And blood's gone. And you know it's gone. You know you showed your hand. What do? So the only thing I could think of is, how did you know? So he takes his grade book and he turns it around and he puts it in front of me. And he says, find your name. And I find my name and he goes, what grades do you have? And I go, 88, 88. I go, why are there two 88s? That's my first test. And he goes, what does it say on the top of the first column? And I went to the top and it says, anticipated grade based on classroom participation. Michael, who does that?
Yeah.
Who does that?
Either a prophet or a wise man, or a man who's...
He goes, Jay, you walked into my class with an 88, which means I didn't teach you anything.
Yeah.
What do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a dentist. He goes, how do you know that? And I said, I was 10 years old when I decided I was going to be a dentist. He goes, how?
Yeah.
I said, well, our dentist was a friend of the family. We commuted almost an hour to his office, an hour to go to the dentist. And he was always happy and jubilant, and he made a difference for people. And he made an above average income. And I'm looking at all of that and I'm going,
sounds good to me.
What's there not to like?
Yeah.
So he said, do you think an 88 is good enough to get you into a medical school? And Michael, nobody's ever asked me that before.
No. It's an interesting question and well put. Very well put.
But I didn't know. I'm 15 years old. So he
Socratically teaching
yes.
the person. Short number of words. Do you think an 88 is good enough to get you in medical school? Now that'll have somebody thinking.
And I thought. And he goes, how about we find out? So he reaches underneath his desk and he tosses me a yellow pages. Do we have to explain that to the audience?
Yeah, we do. We do. And we do have to explain to anyone under 50.
Exactly.
Correct.
So
and we have viewers all over the world.
I understand.
So they don't know what yellow pages.
I understand. So I open it up to dentist, and there's a full-page article for Dr. Charlie Pilar. I could remember this. This is 45 years ago, Michael. So I just turned 60. I mean, it was literally 45 years ago. And he goes, let's give him a call. I go, what do you want me to say? He goes, introduce yourself and then introduce me.
About his grades.
So here's how the conversation goes. I call, Marjorie answers the phone. This
is at a time in America where people answered the phone. And dental offices answered in under 50 rings.
Exactly. And I said, hi, Marjorie, my name is Jay Grossman. I'm a high school student down the street. My social studies teacher would like to speak with Dr. Pilar if he's available. She goes, hold on, and he gets on the phone.
Unthinkable today.
And he goes, how can I help you? And my teacher, whose last name was Boss, Hillary Boss, he was English, so Hillary was a masculine name back then. And he goes, my name is Mr. Boss, I'm a social studies teacher. I have the potential valedictorian in front of me, to which I turn around because I don't know who he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Now, who might he be speaking of?
And he wants to be a dentist when he grows up. And suddenly I realize this phone call is about me. Mm-hmm. And he goes, we have a new program where our students could volunteer a half a day a week at your office. You could enlighten them, show them your field for free.
Hard to be free.
Hard to be free. Yeah. But there is some coaching that goes along with it. So he did have to do something.
Yep.
And I was wondering if you'd be willing to help our students really see what their future has to hold for them. So Dr. Pilar says, I would be happy to participate. What day would be best for you? He goes, Monday afternoons are really great days to come and watch. And he goes, what are the odds? That's exactly when our class meets. He'll be there. He hangs up the phone, and he picks up the phone, and he calls the principal. And while the phone's ringing, I go, I've never heard of this program. How long's it been going on? And he says, about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So he calls the principal, he goes, I have a great idea. He made that program up, Michael. He made that program up for me. Now, several other students partook in this and did other things outside of dentistry. And I'm still in touch with Dr. Pilar.
You are?
I certainly am.
And what happened to Mr. Boss?
He passed away. Yeah.
Tell me now the story, or the embryonic story, of how you got the idea to begin a charity whose mission was to work with and assist homeless people at a time in which the problem of homelessness was nothing in any way as grave as it is today.
Yeah.
Talk about that story.
So, as you know, we're in my practice here in Brentwood. The VA is literally walking distance from us.
Accurate.
And
Veterans building in Los Angeles, rather large.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I passed it every day.
Yep.
So I'm starting my practice. I have more time on my hands that I know what to do with. I mean, Michael, sometimes I saw 1 or 2 patients a day,
Yeah.
right? So I've got these holes, and I'm making phone calls. And I'm driving by the VA, and as you know, there's always somebody at the corner, at the light, with a sign. And it says something like, "Veteran, will you help?" So here are all the thoughts that go through my mind. Are you really a veteran? Do you really need help? Is the money going to food or drugs and alcohol? Can you think of anything else that would go through your mind? Are those the...
No. And my intuition on all of them is probably no. But go ahead.
So I'm feeling, I have mixed feelings.
Sure.
Do I give them $1 because I feel guilty? Do I give them $1 because I would rather...
And by the way, you were guilty, particularly by virtue of the fact that you were a veteran.
When I was active duty, I treated them for free.
Yeah.
They had a benefit. Now somehow they don't have benefits. Now, one of the things that I've learned after doing this nonprofit for over 30 years is that if you finish a full 20 years of military service, you have full benefits.
For life.
For life, medical and dental. If you're less than 20 years,
So if you're 15 years.
anything less than 20 years, you get no benefits unless you have a disability. Now, the military has an interesting policy for disability. If you're active duty and a part of your body got injured, they assign a percentage of disability to it.
Yep.
And if that percentage is, I think, over 20%, you get medical benefits. But the only way you get dental is if you're 100% disabled.
Wow.
So most people do not finish a full 20 years, and most people don't have 100% disability, which means you've got a lot of veterans that are out of the service that have no dental.
That's a great explanation for a certain situation. Okay, so now you're plagued. You're thinking, should I give them $1? Should I not give them $1? You're learning about why veterans disproportionately have that. What do you decide?
There were a few days that I gave $1.
So you'd walk by, give $1, knowing damn well that there was some chance, or even a good chance, that was going to go to booze.
And then I was reaching into my wallet one day and I said, if I am feeding an addiction, I'm enabling and I'm not helping.
There is a vast number of the audience members that I imagine would resonate to that.
So I'm staring at my wallet, and right next to my dollar bill is my business card.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, Homeless Not Toothless was born.
And no other explanation than that. So now you pull not the dollar out of your wallet, but you pull the business card out.
Pulled my business card. I got a chill thinking about it, Michael. Like the nonprofit was. I didn't know it was going to be a nonprofit.
Of course.
But the
you
concept.
didn't know anything. I mean,
Right.
except that you were going to give them your card. And say what?
I said, you know, I could do so much more for you by fixing your mouth, by getting you out of pain so you don't have to look for drugs, by giving you a smile so you could go get a job. Much more so than the dollar's going to give you. And my office is a block away. Now, here was the benefit of doing that. if they truly wanted to get off the street and looked at fixing their smile as one of the avenues for doing it, they would show up.
There's a qualifier. Right. The first rule of success is attendance.
Yes.
So if
Showing up.
If he shows up, or I guess it could be she too, but if he shows up, then you have an understanding that he's serious. Now so did the first guy show up?
I don't know if it was the first guy.
But ultimately, after enough cards,
people showed up.
People showed up.
And it also, I got to tell you, it also alleviated some guilt. Like, we pass by people who are begging all the time.
Right.
And so many of us look at them as subhuman. Like, get off the street, do something.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever that conversation
Correct.
is. And I was disgusted by that. I'm like, how can I just pass another human being out? What happens if I'm down on my luck? What happens if I could?
Wait. Doctor, there is a feeling among many people, you know it, I know it, you won't say it, I just did, that many of the people that are on the street are there, not all, but many, due to a sequential series of bad decision making, right? You didn't put him there. I didn't put him there. This down on your luck theory has some application for some, but some of them. So how do you tell me about your thinking process?
Let's go a little
about
bit deeper into that.
Okay.
I believe that the vast majority of these bad luck decisions has to do with mental illness.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if we consider mental illness an illness,
Yes.
just as we would consider cancer
polio
an illness, if somebody was going through chemo that you knew,
Yes.
and they excused themselves to go to the bathroom to throw up from their chemo,
Yes.
would you have empathy for that?
Of course.
Okay. So now we've got somebody who's got another illness that many of us are having a much harder time grappling because they just snap out of it. But what happens if they can't snap out of it? What if they really, really need help? What happens if they need therapy or medication, but they don't have access to it?
Would you then argue that often that becomes the case, from your experience, predicated on some trauma induced in military service?
The amount of people that I've treated that are veterans that have PTSD as their diagnosis is extreme. Percentage-wise, it's extreme.
But doctor, my question to you is this. Historically, there was this war called World War II. It used to be in all the papers. And it didn't seem that the veterans who came home from that war had the same degree of trauma that many of the people indicate today. So can we talk about that?
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily have that expertise, but I would also guess that a lot of that had to do with we didn't know how to define what their trauma was.
Okay.
I think a lot of that was undiagnosed.
Okay. All right.
So when we take a look, for example, at the suicide rate in the veteran community,
Yep.
why is it 2 to 3 times the normal population?
Why wasn't it 2 or 3 times the population 40
Well,
years ago?
I don't know if I have the answer, but the other question that I would ask about that is, were we properly documenting their cause of death?
And that's a very fair question.
So I can't really go into that. I don't have that expertise.
But your point here is that there is a person, a fellow brother in the military. We think in terms
That
of
lingo,
brothers
sure.
and sisters. That's a vernacular. So we have a fellow brother. Now we first have to establish if he really is a veteran. And then we invite him into the dental practice because we're going to help this brother or sister start the journey back toward a productive life, right?
Correct.
Because it's hard to get a job without teeth,
It is.
generally. Okay, so now, when do you start to establish, because this is an intriguing piece to the puzzle in my mind, when do you start to establish certain criteria? When do you adopt because you're talking in such poetic ways about empathy, beautifully spoken, attaching chemotherapy and cancer to mental illness, all well stated. But at some point you adopt a bit more of a tough love logic.
Yes.
And I am fascinated by that, and I want to know, one, how you decided to do it, and two, how did it work out?
Yeah. So I think I have to credit one of our board members for helping me with that, and that's the actress Sharon Stone.
So you have a board. This homelessnottoothless.org has a board, and the actress, the very famous actress Sharon Stone, is a board member?
She is.
You're a beautiful board member. So then what does actress Sharon Stone say to you that indicates that tough love might be a better plan?
Yeah, she is. She's really a force to be reckoned with. She is powerful. She's got some very strong opinions that are really well situated when it comes down to compassion with boundaries. And when I heard her speak those words, I'm like, yeah, we need boundaries. We need to have criteria.
Prior to Sharon Stone, do you feel you were too heavily weighted in hindsight on compassion?
I was anybody who came in. I wanted to help, but I was also looking at what is the help?
What is help?
What is help? Exactly. It's exactly
and
right.
you've defined, this is important for the audience, help is empowerment it is they who got themselves there, albeit through a difficult circumstance, and it is they who are going to get themselves out. And you
Empowerment, not enablement.
Empowerment, not enablement.
Exactly. Let me tell you how Sharon became involved, because this to me is a lovely circle.
And by the way, is it true, Doctor, that you have an active board, and I think some of your other board members are also somewhat famous people. Some are not famous.
Correct.
That's
accurate. That's accurate.
Okay.
So I get a phone call from one of the shelters in Santa Monica. And they said, we have somebody who's been with us for 5 months, clean and sober for 5 months. He's got a toothache. I said, send him in. He's already passed the first criteria.
Of course he has.
He's living in a shelter.
Right.
The shelter says he's following.
He's sober.
He's sober, right? So John comes in, and he's lying in the chair, and I'm working on him. He needs quite a bit of work. I cannot save any teeth.
A human mouth, I don't know this, so I'm
Guess
out of my league.
32.
32.
Good guess.
Good. Okay. I knew it was 32. Okay. So a human mouth has 32 teeth, and this man has 0.
He's about to have
About to
zero.
have 0.
About to have 0.
Which, by the way, I do know is probably not the best way to apply for a job.
With no teeth, correct. And if you saw him when he came in, there were still teeth that were visible, but it looked like a bomb went off. Now, we have a name for that in dentistry. We call it meth mouth. That's actually a diagnosis.
Meth mouth.
Uh-huh.
Like
From methamphetamine.
Methamphetamine.
Right. So he was smoking methamphetamines on the street for over 10 years. And the meth is so toxic, so caustic, it eats away the teeth. Michael, looks like a piece of dynamite went off, just blew up.
Okay.
And I said, John, what's your story? And he said, well, I used to be a high-end builder and had a brilliant business up in Northern California. And I made a wrong turn. And I go, can you share with me the wrong turn?
Tell me about the wrong turn.
He said, I got greedy. And people were coming to me and saying, can you build the following project? And instead of saying the intelligent thing, yes, but I need X number of weeks and months to finish my current contract, I just said yes to everybody. I did not know how to say no. And then I decided,
Now that is foolish, but not a high crime.
but it's about to be.
Right. Oh, okay. Right.
He said,
it starts with foolishness.
I started using amphetamines to put more working hours into the day so I could take care of everybody. Now here's where it goes south.
Yeah.
He comes home to his house, to his wife and his 2-year-old kid. And there's a note on the refrigerator from the wife and says, this is not what I signed up for. I don't want our kid exposed to this type of behavior. And she and the 2-year-old are gone. So he now starts looking for them, but they vanished. She did a very good job staying off the grid. He got more and more depressed and started using more and more drugs because he just lost his wife and his 2-year-old son.
And his life as he knew it.
The drugs got so bad, he stopped showing up to work. Guess what happened to the job? And he owned the business, right? So he now finds himself on the street. And he's using drugs to get rid of the pain. He had no family to really support him. And it became a series of wrong turns. So I said to John, I said, so, okay, so now you lost your job, you're on the street. How long ago was that? And he says, it's been 15 years. I said, wait a second. You have a 17-year-old son that you haven't seen since he was 2? And he gets a little teary-eyed. And I said, where are they? He goes, I have no idea. So I'm feeling empathy for this guy. He's now in my chair. And I said, what was your transition that had you go from the street to a sobriety clinic?
Yep.
And he said, I had my aha moment. I had a heart attack. And 911 picked me up and took me to county. And as I'm clutching my chest, having a heart attack, the ER doc comes over and says, John, I could give you this shot that'll stop the heart attack. John goes, well, give it to me. He goes, you know, here's the problem. This is a county facility. Funds are limited. You're having this heart attack because you're using drugs. I'm going to stop the heart attack. You're going to go back out there, use drugs again, and I just wasted some medication on somebody that doesn't care about their life. So, John and
also tough love. Also
that's
tough
correct.
love.
John and this doctor had a staring contest. And John said, I'm sure you've heard this before from addicts, but I promise I'm done. And the doctor stops the heart attack and says, I'm going to hold you to that. Next day, the doctor's doing rounds. John, how you doing? Doctor, thank you. I appreciate it. I have another huge favor. I need $20. And he goes, really? You're going to go get another speedball? Like it's not even been a day. He goes, nope. Cab's coming to pick me up. I'm checking into a facility in Santa Monica. The doctor wheels him out to the cab and gives the cab driver the $20 and says, do not stop any place.
Right. And don't give him the 20, give the cab
Right.
driver.
Now,
here's what I would be interested in. And you don't maybe know this, but it would be interesting to me. Did he pay him back the $20?
That's a great question.
That's a great question.
That's a great
Isn't
question.
that fun?
And knowing John, I bet you he did. Because here's what happened.
Part of his recovery would be to pay back.
It would be. And here's what he did for me, which I thought was fascinating. So he's lying in the chair and I'm talking to Jennifer, my assistant, who gave me the job and has been now with me 32 years. And part of my job as a dentist is to tell stories, monologues, because my fingers are in people's mouth. They can't talk back.
With sharp instruments.
With sharp instruments. Sounds like you've been at the receiving end of that. Mm-hmm. So with that, I'm telling Jennifer about a project I'm about to take on in my house. I'm going to build a retaining wall out of concrete because there's a hill and it's sliding down. And Jennifer has heard me say much stupider things.
Why don't you call John?
So she goes, that's nice. John raises his hand. I goes, everything okay down there? He goes, yeah, Doc, do you need a hand with that wall? And I said to myself, you know what? The guy wants a job. Right? So I give him my address. Now, at the time, I'm living in Malibu Hills. I need a GPS to find my house. And 25 years ago, there was no GPS. But 7 o'clock the next morning, John's at the door. Wow, I'm not even awake yet.
Yeah.
It's a start. He showed up.
That's right.
Showed up.
Attendance.
So I show him the job, and I showed him the materials. Mm-hmm. Here are the 3 bags of concrete. Mm-hmm. He said, 3 bags for a retaining wall? Yeah, isn't that enough?
No, 30.
He goes, where's the rebar? I go, what's rebar? And then he goes, where's the wood? I go, no, cement wall, not a wood wall. He goes, Doctor, cement starts as a liquid. The wood forms it. The rebar holds it together. So it's probably a good thing I didn't do that. So he goes, you know, you're short a lot of materials. I'm going to guesstimate about $500. So I give him $500 and he takes off.
Good luck.
Now, do you know what I was thinking about 2 hours later?
You just lost $500.
Right. Well, 2.5 hours later, I hear him coming back because his car, which has no shocks, is dragging along the street because there's 3,000 pounds of concrete in the back. 3 days later, the job is done. The most breathtaking retaining wall I've ever seen in my life. I allocated 20 minutes for the job, so obviously I don't know what I'm talking about.
Maybe you underestimated.
I said, John, I take my wallet out. I said, I apologize. I didn't ask you for your day rate, but thank you so much. And he turns to me and he gets angry. He says, why would you insult me? I just worked my ass off for 3 days. I said, I know you did.
Yeah.
He said, how much money did you put in my mouth? He goes,
And there were 32 teeth.
he goes, I'm done taking handouts. Now,
I don't do that anymore. See, I used to do that and it didn't work out too well.
so I got moved.
Yeah, I got moved.
Now,
I love that.
My
I do.
wife
I'm-
is listening. My wife, the shrink. She goes, John, that was really generous. I'd like to put up a pot of coffee and hear your story. And I want to talk to you about the next job that I want done at this house. But just to be clear, you're paid in full.
for that one.
2 years later, he was living with us. He moved in. He was living with us and redid every room in my house. While he was living with us, I asked for his wife's full name. I come to my office and I look her up. It takes me about 40 minutes to make the right phone call. And the phone call goes something like this. Hi, I'm looking for John's ex-wife. This is her. Wow. I want to let you know that John is alive and well. He's now 9 months sober, and he's looking at making amends. What he's learned was that what you did saved your son from a dangerous situation, and he no longer looks at you and is angry, is upset, but got that it was the right thing to do. And I would like to know whether or not I could help mediate that phone call if you would be willing to accept that apology. And she goes, who are you? And they said, you have a computer in front of you? She goes, I do. So she types in J. Grossman. She goes, I see J. Grossman Concierge Dentistry and J. Grossman Homeless Not Toothless. I go,
Which one are you?
I'm both.
Right.
Two separate websites, but so I said, he's really interested also in seeing whether your son would be willing to have a relationship.
Right.
And she goes, let me ask. So I hear her hold her hand over the phone. Hey, Taylor, your dad's alive. Do you want to meet him? Can you imagine?
Wow.
So he goes, my God, yeah, I'd love to meet him. So I said, what does he do? She goes, he finished 11th grade 2 days ago. He's home for the summer doing nothing. He'll probably be getting in trouble. I said, you're telling me he's free today to meet his dad? She goes, yes, but we live in the Midwest. I can't afford a ticket. I said, just let me see if I get this right. If I got him here and he stayed with us, my wife and I would supervise for a week, you would be okay with him flying out? She goes, I would. I go,
As long as I don't pay for it.
what's the nearest airport? I said, what's your email address? And she goes, and there's a ticket. She goes, well, you work fast. I said, we'll pick him up this evening. So I finish my day, I go home, I go, John, I need you to clean up, I need you to run an errand. I said, shower, here's my car. I said, need you to go to the airport, pick somebody up at this airline. He goes, great, what does the person look like? I go, I have no idea. And he laughed, he goes, well, how am I supposed to recognize him?
He might look like you.
And I said, do you think you would recognize your son? And there was this pregnant pause. He goes, excuse me? I said, Taylor lands in 2 hours.
Wow.
Taylor still calls me on Father's Day. It's been 20 years. John is working, paying taxes, clean and sober.
How do people watching this show all over the world who don't know you, never met you, never will meet you, how do they learn more about the Homeless Not Toothless mission?
So I put resources on the website, homelessnottoothless.org, and it's everything how to set Homeless Not Toothless up in your town, how to donate to us, I do want to say, and this is something I'm very proud of, that 92 cents out of every dollar that gets donated goes directly to patient care. My dollar a year is not where our expenses are. Our supplies and our labs is where our expenses are. And the other 8% is administrative and filing
And
taxes.
I've heard you've had UCLA students come here and do dentistry for free on weekends.
Yep.
But one of the things, again, I got to say goodbye, but this idea that you have created maybe a template for people living in other cities, in other countries, and essentially it says some version of, now listen here, Mary or Jose or Henry, if you're touched by this story, you might want to try it in Philadelphia, see, or something of that sort. I like that template, and have people done that?
They have, and it's starting, and we're in negotiations with a very large dental organization.
Like a franchise, like a charitable franchise.
Exactly, because the truth of the matter is that this is not just good for society and humanity. This is actually good for business too.
Talk about that.
You know, when people come to me and they go, how is it you justify your prices or whatever? And I said, I want to let you know that we've treated 124,000 people that are unhoused. We've given away $10 million worth of free dental care to help end homelessness, to help do our part. So I want to thank you.
You're not going to end homelessness. We're going to
help.
Contribute.
We're going to help. You coming to us actually helps us help society.
Yep.
It's a win-win. Besides the fact that I feel great after the stories, the story about John, the fact that I'm still in touch with him. I went out to visit him a few years ago, and when he bought a motorcycle, he was so excited. He goes, I bought a motorcycle with cash. We went out there, we had a boys' weekend. We cruised up around Albuquerque for 3 days. And I'm like, I'm with a homeless guy that's now paying taxes and has a relationship with his son.
It's a great story. Thank you. This has been a show that I think has been very consistent with the theme. I didn't know where we were going.
Without notes.
Without notes.
It was lovely.
Thank you again.